you ever had that experience at the airport? You just breeze right through, scan your face at the gate, and walk straight onto the plane? You never even have to pull out your passport or boarding pass. It feels like magic, right? Like a little slice of the future happening today. Yeah, well, back in 2019, a writer named Mackenzie Fegan had that exact moment. She was so thrown off, she actually tweeted at the airline just asking, what just happened? The answer, of course, facial recognition. That super quick, seamless moment was all thanks to some seriously advanced tech. But is it really just magic? Or is there a whole complex system working away, just out of sight? A system that, might have its own set of risks to go along with all that amazing convenience? Okay, let's get into it. The tech behind all this is something called AIoT. It stands for the artificial intelligence of things. And a good way to think about it is like this. You take a thing, in this case, the camera at the gate, and you give it a brain, which is the artificial intelligence. This lets the camera make smart, incredibly fast decisions right there on the spot, without needing to send your data on a round trip across the globe. And listen, when I say fast, I mean it. This system can process a passenger in just 2 seconds. 2, with an incredible 98% accuracy rate. I mean, they can board 240 travelers in 10 minutes flat. That is just a whole other level of efficiency. But here's the million-dollar question, right? What are we giving up for those 2 seconds of convenience? This is where we got to talk about privacy and the security of what is probably your most personal data, your own face. And make no mistake, this isn't some niche, futuristic technology we're talking about. It is everywhere. This research paper shows a really key chart that lays out just how widespread facial recognition for surveillance has become. The adoption rates are absolutely massive. Let's put some numbers on it because they really tell the story. You have 98 countries actively using this tech for surveillance right now. Another 11 have already approved it, and 12 more are thinking about it. On the flip side, only 3 countries have actually banned it. This stuff is already deeply woven into our world. And all of that brings us to the big concern, the one highlighted right in the research. When you scan your face, what happens to that data? I mean, who gets access to it? Could somebody sell it? Could it get stolen? These are the real questions. So to really understand the risks here, we have to look under the hood. Let's break down the exact ways these really complex systems can be attacked. The number one vulnerability in pretty much any digital system is a weak foundation. It's just like building a house, right? If the base isn't solid, the whole thing is at risk of just collapsing. And you'd be shocked at how basic some of these flaws are. We're not talking about some high-tech, super spy hacking here. We're talking about devices that ship with a default password like admin or 1234, or software that hasn't been updated in years, leaving all these known security holes just wide open. These are basically the unlocked doors and open windows of the digital world. Okay, so let's say the foundation is solid. What about the connections? The digital roads and pipes that are carrying your data from that camera to the server. If those aren't locked down tight, your data is just out there, exposed for the taking. This can be anything from attackers just shutting down the whole network to them literally grabbing your unencrypted data out of the air. The research even points out a scary scenario where a security camera is connected to the public airport Wi-Fi, making it a wide-open gateway for pretty much anyone in the terminal. And then there's this, which sounds like something straight out of a movie. What if the attack isn't just digital? The research notes that some of these systems can be fooled by high-res images, so it begs the question, could a really sophisticated attacker use something like a 3D printed mask to pretend to be someone else? This isn't just a theoretical threat anymore. Okay, so with all these different vulnerabilities, how in the world do organizations even begin to protect these systems? Well, thankfully, they don't just wing it. They use a professional, structured playbook that's designed for managing exactly this kind of crazy complexity. This is it, the NIST Risk Management Framework, or RMF. It's basically the gold standard for the US government and a ton of private companies. The best way to think about it is as a blueprint for building, managing, and constantly monitoring a digital fortress. It's a 7-step cycle that just goes on and on. First, you prepare your organization. Then you categorize your data, because you need to know that a criminal's face scan is way more critical than a regular passenger's. Then you select and implement the right security controls, and then you assess them to make sure they're actually working. After all that, a senior leader has to formally authorize the system, which means they accept the remaining risk. And here's the key. You have to monitor it constantly. The process never, ever stops. But here's the thing about a good plan. It's not just about prevention. It is also about acceptance. You have to work from the assumption that someday something is going to go wrong, and you have to be ready for when it does. In the world of disaster recovery, the pros focus on two key questions. The first is your recovery point objective, or RPO. That's asking, how much data can we afford to lose? So if you back up every 4 hours, your RPO is 4 hours. The second is your recovery time objective, or RTO. That's asking, how long can we afford to be offline? Defining these two things helps an organization build a recovery plan that's actually realistic and effective. But you know what? All the best frameworks and recovery plans on the planet, they're totally useless without the most important component of all. Because at the end of the day, security isn't really a technology job. It's a human job. Look, the basic flow of the tech is simple. A camera captures your face, an algorithm processes it, and the result gets sent for verification. Easy. But at every single one of those steps, there are people and processes and policies that are the real deciders of whether the system is truly secure or not. Real security gets written down in policy. It means training your staff to recognize things like social engineering, someone trying to rush through security with a sob story. It means having a step-by-step plan for what to do during a data breach, and having policies that make sure your databases are locked down and that your recovery plans actually get funded by management. And that really brings us to the core takeaway here. That facial recognition camera, it's just a tool. The AI, it's just a tool. True, meaningful security isn't something you find in a device. It's a culture built on really careful planning, clear policies, and well-trained people. So the next time you find yourself gliding through that airport gate in just 2 seconds, what are you going to be thinking about? The magic of convenience? Or the incredibly complex web of risks and defenses that you're trusting with your most personal data, your face?